I was gonna say.
All right, good evening. This is the Fourth and Long Podcast, episode 10, brought to you by Backpage Sports or BackSportsPage, and this is episode 10. How you doing, Jake?
Good. How are you, Justin?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, we obviously have a lot to talk about with everything that happened today and over the weekend. So, if you're cool with it, I'm just going to jump right in.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. Today in sports history, in 1945, college football's number one Army beats number two Notre Dame, 48-0. And in 1957, there was a record crowd of 102,368 to see the 49ers take on the Rams in LA. So that's some interesting stuff. And now we have to get into the real stuff, news and notes for this week. Basically, you kind of texted me last night, I think, and it kind of all came to fruition today. But I mean, I'll read what I had written down. Mississippi State versus Auburn is postponed because of Mississippi State's positive tests. Alabama versus LSU was in jeopardy, and now it is postponed because of LSU's positive tests. And Texas A&M just shut down their all football activities. So their game this weekend versus Tennessee is also postponed. I don't think any of those teams have already used their December 12th date for the makeup game, but I'm not positive on that. But yeah, it's really, I feel like we're going to get, once it starts to get colder, I feel like the virus is going to take a turn for worse. And I mean, what do you got on it?
I mean, it's definitely a tough break for college football this week. It kind of leaves a lackluster lineup of games, but I mean, there's still competitive games. But you're right. As it gets colder, this is going to get a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you go.
You're good. You're good. I already talked for 2 minutes.
I was also going to say I forgot to also mention the head coach for, I believe, Arkansas is also out with a COVID test. Or
yes, Sam Pittman, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that's another news. It's just really tough to, I mean, it is something that's gripping the nation right now, and it's tough that it's pushing back something that we love. But again, safety comes first.
Yeah, I almost just kind of want the regular season to end and to get into conference championships, because then I feel like they can move conference championships around a little bit, bless you, and they can also move bowls around if they need to, even though I don't think a lot of the players who aren't in one of the semifinals are going to play in the bowls. I said that last weekend. But yeah, it's I mean, I know it's been really nice up here. It's been like 50s, 60s, but I know it's supposed to go down below freezing, and we're going to see snow at some point. So I don't know if you've ever seen snow. So yeah, actually, you're from the Northeast. Yeah, you're the worst. I hate Boston. But
it's a lovely time. It's a lovely place in the spring. So
it's gross. Some other notes I had. I just saw that former 4-star recruit, I believe his name is Isaiah. Let me get to it. Isaiah something. He was a 4-star recruit who was committed to Florida State, and now he is committed to Jackson State under Deion Sanders. So we called that perfectly. Basically, he was just going to get recruits. So, and then, I mean, we'll talk more about this kind of during the game, but Notre Dame mandates COVID testing after the fans rush the field. I don't want to get completely in it right now, but I mean, you just can't have kids doing that right now.
No.
Trevor Lawrence is ready to return to practice, and he's still undecided on his future. I would have a hard time seeing, even if the Jets get the pick, I would have a hard time seeing him turning down that money. But I know he's like a really religious guy. But yeah, I mean, New York's not the place you want to be. and it's
Not
looking
right
like
now.
it's looking like it's either the Giants or the Jets for the number 1 pick.
Mhm.
So, and the
Trust me,
Giants won.
I was very conflicted last night in that Patriots Jets game. I'm like, okay, if the Patriots lose, they're one step closer to getting Trevor Lawrence. If they win, we're still in the playoff hopes.
Yeah, no,
So,
Bill Belichick will just draft a quarterback in like the second round. That
hey,
ends
my
up.
boy Zach Wilson. You never know.
I got a feeling Belichick doesn't really like you just heaving the ball 50 yards down the field. Especially they did like it when Randy Moss played for
Yeah.
that year that Randy Moss played for New England.
2007.
That wasn't even
2007.
fair. That wasn't
It
even
wasn't. It
fair
really wasn't.
because Randy Moss was still good.
But I mean, I think the biggest news to come out of Saturday was definitely Florida's loss of Kyle Pitts. I mean, that brutal hit by Lewis Sign was just both of them didn't know where they were on the field after that hit, and you could. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more, but Florida just didn't look the same after Pitts went down.
Yeah, he's just questionable for this game though, but with the concussion, right? Yeah. And so I could see them maybe say, I mean, I don't know. Arkansas is kind of good this year. I mean, Sam Pittman's done a good job, and they've been in a lot of games. So, but I mean, you don't mess around with concussions and things like that. And then some other news is, guys, we might get to see Wisconsin play again this weekend after being off.
Don't jinx it.
And I say, yeah, and I say,
wood.
we definitely might see them play because I could absolutely see us getting on the podcast on Friday night and being like, "Yep, Wisconsin's canceled." But yeah, they're supposed to play on Saturday, and they expect to. But we'll see how that goes. And then, like you already said, the other news note I have was Kyle Pitts is questionable with a concussion. So it just seems like, I mean, it's more of not a conversation to be had on this podcast, but it just seems like the virus is going to get worse, and they should, I mean, speaking of just college basketball, I mean, they should really just buy a house and have their players stay in it, take a limo or a bus to their practice, and they can be around no one else. But I just don't know what to do about it right now. So I'm not an expert, and I'm not going to try to do something about it. But yeah, I mean, it just sucks. It's when
It really does.
When college football first started, I knew we'd have some issues, but I never thought that it would be all the way here in week 10, week 11. So, and with that, before we get into 2 quick segments, I just want to update the AP poll. Alabama jumped to number 1. Notre Dame jumped over Ohio State to number 2. Iowa State's 3, and Clemson's 4. Texas A&M was 5, and I kind of had them as like a sneaky pick to get in if things happen. But if they're going to cancel games and stuff, and then I had Florida 6. They have Florida 6, 7 Cincinnati, 8 BYU, 9 Miami, Florida, and 10 Indiana. Your boys at Oregon are 11. I mean, the biggest movers were obviously Georgia. After they fell to Florida, they dropped 7 spots, and Indiana climbed 3 spots after their win over Michigan. So, because we've been trying to do this basically for 2 weeks now, we're going to get into 1-minute debate. Who's more important, the fat offensive lineman or the young, sexy, skill players? So you call it in the air. All right.
Yep. Heads. It
is heads, so you can go first or second.
Right, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to choose my boys at the offensive line. I'll keep this short and sweet. I mean, without the offensive line, you don't give the quarterback enough time to get downfield. You know, time in the pocket for the receivers to get downfield. The receivers can't, your running back can't do what he does best without an offensive line, unless you're Barry Sanders. That man just ran over everyone. But again, offensive line is the most important. Offensive line is the most important. They block for you. They give you time and space to be able to do what skill position players do best, and that's create fantastic plays for us viewers. Your head.
I mean, you already lost this because you didn't mention the defensive line at all. Like, I would have fallen for it. I mean, no, but skill players nowadays in college football, everyone's running the hurry up. I mean, yes, you do need an offensive line, but it's not like high school kids are going out to play scrimmages against each other. They play 7-on-7 because the quarterback's going to throw in the ball. And then so I mean, and basically everything now is based off of like their spark score, whatever it is. And I do think linemen are important. I just think that like having a good corner on defense, like a great corner, who's one I like Tre'Davious White for the Bills. I'd rather have Tre'Davious White for the Bills than Myles Garrett, just because if you
Really?
get shut down maybe not Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's a freak, but I would rather have a really good corner over a really good defensive end. So we kind of got into that. You failed miserably, but not even. I mean, because you could have gotten into the defensive line. You could have
Yeah.
mentioned guys like Clowney and those other guys, but everyone go and vote who won the debate. We just been waiting to have that one. I'm gonna throw a weird one at you guys next week. I don't know. I'll think of something. And then this week today I have 2 truths and 2 lies. Guess who it's about?
Do I want it? Don't tell me Justin Fields again.
No, why would I pick the same guy?
I don't know. It seems like who is it? Who is it?
Zach Wilson.
Okay.
All right, so here's the 4 choices. He won Utah's Mr. Football in 2017. He was also heavily recruited by Boise State, has 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and in high school at Corner Canyon High School, he also played basketball.
Okay, can you repeat the first 2 again?
He won Utah's Mr. Football in 2017. That was a senior year. And the second one was he was also heavily recruited by Boise State.
Okay, so I'm going to say the brother and sister one's true, and also the Mr. Utah is true.
So that's your final answer.
Yes.
Okay, you're wrong on both. He was runner-up for Mr. Football in 2017. I looked at his yards. I don't know who in Utah was better than him in high school there, but he was runner-up, and he has 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and the other one that was true was he was heavily recruited by Boise State. So
Okay.
it's kind of a good one. I don't know. It really shockingly was pretty hard to find some weird facts about Zach Wilson. I mean, he goes to BYU, so you never know. But so I updated the AP poll, and now we're gonna head into our games that we covered this weekend. I'm gonna start out, and then we'll go back and forth. Like snake.
Yep.
So my first game I covered, and I mean we basically both covered the games. It's just whoever did the write up.
Right.
Michigan at Indiana. I have a couple things just to say on that one. Indiana plus 3.5 was good. I got that one. One of the most astonishing stats I've seen for Michigan. They had 13 yards rushing total. And they're supposed to have this stable of four-headed monster at running back with Charbonnet, Corum, Evans, and I don't know the other guy's name, but they were also horrible on third down, going 3 for 11. Joe Milton wasn't terrible, but it's very clear that forcing him to throw the ball 34 times is not how Michigan's going to have success. It's just not. He was 18 for 34. For 344 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 picks. Michigan was also penalized 8 times for 89 yards, and they lost a turnover battle, and they turned the ball over twice. And so, because we're trying to quicken these up a little bit, I guess I have one last thing to say. Jim Harbaugh is clearly on the hot seat. That's obvious. But the question I guess I would pose to you is, can Michigan get a better coach than Jim Harbaugh? And also, I mean, I know when Harbaugh first came to Michigan, they were like, "Oh, he could jump back into the NFL at any time." I don't know if that's true anymore.
I don't think it's true. I think you got a great point. I don't think Michigan can get a lot better at a coach. I mean, we always seem to see an Alabama assistant go somewhere. So that's always a possibility, but right now,
they never really go northern that much. But
I mean, again, if Michigan's really sick and tired of Harbaugh at this point, then they'll pay whatever that guy wants to get rid of Harbaugh.
Yeah, but seriously, I feel like Michigan fans still love Harbaugh. It's so
No,
weird.
I feel like they do too. He's definitely like a player's coach and everything. It's just the school doesn't like the record he's gotten for them. But kind of moving on, we'll go to my matchup that I had.
Great job.
Number 12 Georgia versus number 6 Florida. Again, I called this Florida was plus 3.5, which I hit on. But I was off by 2 points. Off
Yeah,
by
I know, 44 to 28.
Yeah, it was either
Yeah.
going to be off by a point or off by 2 because of that late game field goal. But
In 20 years from now, we'll all remember my correct prediction score, and they will not remember your wrong prediction. No, go
yeah.
ahead, though.
No, I mean, this was just a really impressive game for Florida. Again, I called it. It's going to be like the Alabama Georgia matchup. Georgia had their number in the first half, and Florida just came out in the second half and absolutely dominated. The biggest note for me was how much they struggled in the second half without Kyle Pitts. It was clearly evident that they weren't able to move the ball as effectively because Georgia knew, okay, they don't really have any other wide receivers other than Pitts, so we'll put our best corner on what left with their best receiver, and then we'll just stack the box. And it was effective in slowing them down. I mean, Florida still was able to move the ball with Kyle Trask at quarterback, but this is just a crazy, very talented, very well-rounded Florida team that's just going to steamroll through the rest of their schedule. I mean, that was their toughest game going forward, and now they're just going to. Even without Kyle Pitts, I still see them steamrolling the rest of the competition and possibly making it into a top 4, top 6 conversation for when playoffs come around.
Yeah, I mean, we both kind of hit on it on Friday when we said Kyle Pitts versus Georgia is going to be the big matchup because they're going to be able to move him around and get him lined up. I mean, we both kind of said that. But, I mean, just the biggest question I have is JT Daniels just dead? Like, what is going on in Georgia?
That's what I was going to touch on next is whatever's going on. I mean, I don't know if you saw the quote from Georgia's coach about the quarterback situation because it was brought up. Someone said basically, why isn't JT Daniels getting a chance to play? And they say he's not ready yet. So I don't know what's going on, but I mean, you saw them go between once Stenson Bennett got hurt, they went to their backup, and he was just a deer in the headlights. He couldn't make a throw to save his life. He had time in the pocket too, and just was missing wide open throws.
I'm reading an article right now that's just basically like, kind of like you said, they're just saying that he's not ready. Like he's got to be more ready than Dwan Mathis.
Dude, I mean, Stenson, we've talked about it. Stenson Bennett, sorry about that. I got a neck cramp for some reason. Stenson Bennett is just such a disappointment for that team. I feel like if that Georgia team had an actual quarterback that could command that offense, this team would be unstoppable this year. And it would be like the Georgia teams that we've seen in the past. With the biggest thing killing Georgia football right now is their quarterback situation. The fact that they don't want to give a very talented freshman at that, and JT Daniels is crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come out like the end of the season, something like that. Like, I mean, at one point you might say he's not ready, but at one point you keep watching Dwan Mathis just get crushed, and you can't take it anymore. But
I can't.
Yeah, that's one of the questions at the end of the football season I hope we get an answer to, but I kind of feel like we won't because it's all.
I think we see him into the transfer portal again. I really do. If this is the treatment he's getting, unless there's something really wrong that they're not letting get out, I think he enters the transfer portal again.
Yeah, he's got to sit though if he enters the transfer portal.
True, but
he'll be like a 21-year-old freshman. But no, I agree. If I was JT Daniels,
if you're not getting your chance, what's the point in staying there?
Yeah, I agree. And
if they're struggling this much and everyone's calling, I mean, the media is now starting to call for it too. Why not? Why not let me play?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, going from one bad quarterback to an excellent quarterback. I had the Rutgers at Ohio State game. It was one of the picks I missed. Ohio State was favored by 38.5. They did not cover. I will say Rutgers scored all their points in garbage time, but really still the 5 stars that are backups for Ohio State still should be beating everyone on Rutgers. But on that game, Justin Fields was once again pretty almost perfect, throwing 24 for 28 for 314 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, and you just watch him, and it's so easy for him. I mean, granted, Rutgers is terrible, but it's just so easy. A couple other things I had: Trey Sermon and Master Teague. Trey Sermon's kind of like the Lightning, and Master Teague's the Thunder. Well, they combined for 128 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. That needs to get better. Ohio State, even when they won a national championship, they had great receivers, but they had Ezekiel Elliott. And last year they had J.K. Dobbins, who, if J.K. Dobbins doesn't go down in the semifinal with a hurt ankle last year versus Clemson, I think they win. But yeah, it stinks. But I mean, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are killers on the outside. They had combined for 11 receptions for 168 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm a little bit worried about the defensive side of the ball. They had only 1 sack. And I don't know if Indiana's really for real, but I mean, they're definitely going to come in with all they can to try and beat Ohio State in the horseshoe. They did have 5 tackles for loss, and Ohio State, I mean, that's the kind of the real score. They were up 35-3 at half. So, I mean, yeah, Ohio State's defense needs to, I mean, I will say this, I think, before I pass off to the next one, I think got me stuck on JT Daniels. I think Justin Fields is by far the best quarterback in college football right now.
Yeah,
it might be just how easy the plays are for him, but I mean, he's played as many good teams as Trevor Lawrence has, and I mean, he's got 11 touchdowns on the year, and he's I mean, last week he had through the first 2 weeks he had 11 incompletions, which was the same amount of touchdowns he threw. So yeah.
I mean, just saying that JT Daniels is just making it look effortless. We'll kind of go into my next game. Stanford.
JT Daniels? You mean Justin Fields?
Justin Fields. God, we're just stuck on JT Daniels right now.
I'm so mad.
Stanford at number 11, Oregon. Oregon was minus 11. I took them for this, and they hit. But the biggest factor going into this game was, as I said, Davis Mills needed to be able to dominate that field, and then him and 2 other players ended up not playing. They were called like either the night before or a couple hours before game time. They were just pulled with COVID fears, and so that really hurt Stanford's chances in this game. I mean, it's crazy to me how bad Stanford's offense was. I mean, they scored a touchdown in the first quarter and in garbage time in the fourth. But they had almost 2 100-yard rushers in that game. Austin Jones went 20 carries for exactly 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Nathaniel Pete, who is a stud, went 6 carries for 93 yards. It was just insane how poorly they could actually complete drives. They kept shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. I mean, Oregon, on the other hand, was just dominant. They had 3 rushers go over 75 yards. CJ Verdell went 20 carries for 105 and a touchdown. Tyler Show, the quarterback, went 11 rushes for 85 yards and a rushing touchdown.
I didn't see that.
Travis Dye went 6 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. I mean, they had 4 other than the quarterback, they had 3 other running backs score a touchdown that game. On top of DJ Johnson, not Johnny Johnson, but DJ Johnson scoring the only solo wide receiver touchdown. Tyler Show struggled a little bit here. He did throw 1 pick, but he was not very inaccurate. He only had 9 incompletions, but his decision-making really struggled against the Stanford secondary that's very diminished right now. So I think that's the biggest concern for Oregon. But from the rushing yards that I gave off, if they can successfully keep running the ball, then I don't see a problem with that team. I mean, again, it is week 1; it's their first game, so I expect there to be better going forward with Tyler Show at quarterback and his decision making. But this running game is going to be legit this year. I mean, that offensive line, even though they're missing Panay Sewell and a couple others, is still really good.
Yeah, all I had was it for this game is Oregon did rush for 269 yards. They were 9 of 11 on third down, which is really good. And I can imagine Show having a little. I feel like picking up Oregon's offense is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But with that, Oregon also lost the turnover battle 2-0, but they won the game. And with that, we will all now head to the other Pac-12 matchup I covered. It was a brutal and agonizing defeat for me, but because it was one of my locks for Arizona State to win outright. It was so close, and USC scored 2 touchdowns in the game's final minute and 32 seconds.
Yeah, that's just
they got the onside kick.
I watched that game, and I'm just like, Justin's just sitting here right now, just going.
I was so mad. Keaton Slovis, I mean, he threw the ball 55 times, completed 40 of them, and he threw for 381 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. I mean, he's a returning starter, so I mean, it's not very surprising. It just is kind of surprising that he threw the ball that many times. Their run game is pretty non-existent. Jaden Daniels, the true sophomore quarterback from Arizona State, was only 11 to 23 for the air for 134 yards and a touchdown, but he did rush the ball 11 times for 111 yards. Basically, when it comes down to it, Arizona State should have won this game. Playing too soft of a coverage when you're up late, and it doesn't work like that, especially in college. Or Arizona State just should have won the game. USC was 7 of 19 on third downs. They were good on fourth downs, 5 of 8. And USC lost a turnover battle. So I don't know how Arizona State lost. The numbers point to them winning, but I watched that onside kick get recovered by them. I was like, it's over. So, but I guess one of my picks, not my locks, one of my picks was Arizona State plus 10.5. So I got that pick right, got the lock wrong. So if you want to take on your boys down in, Myrtle Beach. It is in Myrtle Beach, Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, South Alabama at number 15, Coastal Carolina. And as I said, going into this game, Coastal Carolina being ranked that high is just crazy. I mean, they are really good. They were projected to minus 15.5, which they hit on. Just it was really close for that one, though. I started sweating
for whatever reason on the board. Either you said it or somehow it came up. But on our board over here, I had it put down as minus 18. I was like, no, I know we got it for 15.5. Yeah. So
I mean,
that one.
South Alabama is just historically bad. They couldn't move the ball at all. I mean, Desmond Trotter had 10 carries for minus 21 yards.
Seriously?
Seriously, their quarterback.
Is that their quarterback?
Yeah. Which is
that's terrible too, because in the NFL they count sacks against you for yardage. In college they don't, though, I don't believe. So he just ran backwards 21 times.
Yeah, it was just, throwing through the air, he wasn't terrible. I mean, he missed 8 passes and only threw for 243 yards. Again, biggest news, and I'll kind of get off South Alabama because it's kind of just beating a dead horse at this point. Coastal Carolina is legit. Their defense shut out South Alabama in the second half, and their offense just controlled possession of the ball. It was crazy. And it wasn't just one guy. They kept spreading the ball around. So I think this team is legit. They're very well balanced, and they just can get things done. When one person's not going, they can go to another player. They had three running backs with over 50 yards, with a combined, between the 3 of them, a combined 27 carries and over 200 yards. So, and their wide receiving core was still legit. Javon Hiley, who could be a top first-round pick this year, 5 receptions for 95 yards, no touchdowns, but he's just a freakish athlete and was just able to open the ball for so many people. I think it's time to start taking Coastal Carolina legit this year. I'm not talking, playoff type, but I think they're definitely going to be a team that's going to be exciting to watch come bowl season this year.
Yeah, and with you coming off that saying Coastal Carolina is a shit, we will head to our Friday game. Well, Friday game of the week. Number 9 BYU at Boise State. You can go ahead and start. I mean, I watched it and I turned it off at halftime. They controlled everything from the get-go. Zach Wilson was 22 for 28 for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's incredible efficiency.
Wait. Can we just stop to mention Tyler Algiera?
Yeah, I got him.
14 rushes, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's just they got it done. And their wide receiver, Gunnar Romney, had 6 receptions, 133 yards. That team is just – I'm saying it. That team should be a playoff team. With this – I know it's against Boise State, but it's the first time they've won there ever on the Blue Smurf turf. They're now 1-5. So I say give them a shot. I mean, they should at least be in conversation for even a top 16.
I mean, we'll get into that, but yeah, I did. I said BYU. They had 3 running backs that were all big play threats. Obviously, Tyler Algier, Lopini Katoa had 8 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. And I don't know why I put Chris Jackson. He had 2 carries for 16 yards.
You said wait, Katoa? Isn't it Zachary Katoa?
No, it's Lopini.
Okay.
That's what I saw on ESPN, so it must be. And I also have BYU outscored Boise 22-0 in the third quarter. Put it away. BYU won't be touched again the rest of this year, and we'll kind of get into that and some other things later in our top 10s and things like that. But now we head to, I would say it was the best game of the year so far.
Oh, absolutely.
And
hands down, best game of the year.
I mean, I remember coming into it, I kind of said on Friday, I was like, I mean, we both took Clemson -5.5, but I felt like it was one of those games where people wanted to see the upset, but didn't necessarily. I didn't think it was going to happen.
No.
I mean, Notre Dame was incredible. DJ Ugalele was awesome as well, throwing for 439 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ian Book was pretty inconsistent, 22 for 39, 310 yards and 1 touchdown. The real star for Notre Dame was Kyron Williams. He had 23 carries for 140 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I don't know if you were watching it, but
absolutely, I was watching it.
On the second play of the game, his 65.
Oh yeah, he went 65 yards to the house.
Yeah, his 65 touchdown scamper was like. I mean that was when because I started watching it and I was like, okay, this could actually be a game. But I mean, and I'll let you get into it in a sec. But Travis Etienne just fell off the face of the earth.
Oh, absolutely. That was my first point. Is the run game for Clemson was non-existent. They only rushed for 34 yards in the entire game.
I know.
They threw for 439, but again, you need to have a balanced team with Notre Dame. I mean, they put the game on DJ Uagalele's back, and he almost carried them as a true freshman. That's very impressive, especially against the Notre Dame defense that is, I mean, really good this year. But I say the biggest disappointment in this game is Travis Etienne. I mean, 18 carries for only 26 yards. He did have a touchdown, but it was from like the 2-yard line. Yeah. But let's just not discredit DJ Uagalele, who had 2 wide receivers go over 130 yards.
Well,
Cornell Powell had 6 receptions, 161 yards, and a touchdown. And Amari Rogers had 8 receptions for 134 yards. That is crazy to have 2 wide receivers go for over 100 yards in any game, but let alone against a defense that is really good. That I think is a crazy stat. I mean, Kyron Williams is a legit back. I had said this going into the game. He was second in the ACC behind Travis Etienne. And I said that was going to be one of the matchups to watch, and saying that Kyron Williams, if he can get going, it's going to be a different story. And if Notre Dame can hold ATM, which they did, would be able to have a chance to win this game. So, again, you're completely right. This came down to, just being able to run the ball and control the clock, because that's really what kept Notre Dame in it. Was their defense just being able to kind of hold teams. They didn't score 10 points in the second half until the fourth quarter. So it
Yeah,
was just a great game all around.
one of the things ETN on Saturday was a better wide receiver than he was a runner. He caught 8 passes for 57 yards. He's out of the Heisman race. And an interesting point that you kind of just made me think of, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't go pro this year and stays at Clemson for whatever reason, I feel like you could see Ugalele, or however you say his name, enter the transfer portal.
See, I don't think
because if Trevor Lawrence goes, he'll be a sophomore next year, and that he won't play over Lawrence, and then he'll have only 1 year in 2 games of film on him. So
yes.
I don't know if he'll join the transfer portal, but I could just see that being an issue.
No, I completely agree. Understand where you're coming from, but I think we're going to see a similar situation to what happened with Alabama a number of years ago between Tua and Jalen Hurts. And it could potentially go very well. If you did you watch the entire game and listen to how because they did a whole profile on DJ and how he just loved Dabo Swinney's mentality around it, and him being connected to his faith. I know you hate Dabo Swinney, and you always end with it.
So happy he lost.
But I just don't think I see DJ leaving this chance. I know he'll understand, and he understands Trevor Lawrence is that good, but we could see, you never know. We could, if they're just as good next year, we could very well see Trevor Lawrence play the first half and dominate the first half, and then Dabo Swinney be like, all right, DJ, you go in and get some game time. It's possible. So
I honestly, I don't think it's possible. And for the NFL draft, it really has been kind of like the rankings and conference champions we talked about. It's what have you done for me lately? If DJ doesn't play, first of all, if Trevor Lawrence comes back, Dabo Swinney is not sitting Trevor Lawrence at all unless he's hurt.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if they're up by 25, 30 points going in the halftime, I say he'll give DJ a shot. That's what I mean. And with the rest of the season, if Trevor Lawrence comes back, of course DJ is going to be on the bench. You can't not do that. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying Dabo's going to start him over. I'm just saying he could, if Trevor Lawrence decides to stay at Clemson and DJ decides to stay at Clemson, I could very well see them splitting time in certain games.
I just don't see it. But we'll see. It's the same thing happened to Justin Fields at Georgia. He was beat out his freshman year, and he didn't really play at Georgia. I don't know. Kirby Smart has the worst quarterbacks in the world right now, and he could have Justin Fields, who probably is my favorite for the Heisman right now. But we're not going to get caught up on it anymore. Obviously, this was a big game. It was the best game. Those 2 plays, those 2 sacks that Notre Dame had on DJ in the second overtime.
Oh yeah,
the one dude was crawling over his back. They were. So
their defense is legit. We knew that it was going to be their biggest test of the year, and they stepped up in overtime.
Yeah, and Clemson was also terrible on third downs. I think they were 3 of 14. But yeah. So our picks so far.
They were 4 of 15 for third down.
4 of 15, yeah. Our picks record is on the board. Our picks record, I am 8-2. You are 7-3 over 2 weeks. And then for our locks, I believe we're both 8-2. Yeah, for our locks. So I was tweeting it today. I was like, y'all need to hop on the bandwagon before it gets going. But
hey man, that's pretty impressive.
I'm shocked. I am a bad gambler, and I am shocked.
Dude, just crazy.
So we'll get into our top 10s real quick, and I'll say mine, you say yours, and then I kind of want to add something on at the end. I have 1 Alabama, 2 Notre Dame, 3 Ohio State, 4 Texas A&M, 5 Cincinnati. Wow, I completely left Clemson off this list.
I was going to mention it beforehand, and it flew over my head. I'm like, you don't have Clemson in?
All right, so
I know it's a big loss, but...
So my real would be Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Clemson, Cincinnati, Florida, BYU, and Indiana.
Okay.
And then Oregon and Miami, Florida are just on the cusp.
All right, for me, I kind of have the same thing. I have Alabama, Notre Dame. I mean, 2 teams that Notre Dame really made a statement. Ohio State at my number 3. See, you're gonna hate me for it, but I have Florida at number 4.
I don't hate it at all. I don't hate that at all.
I have Clemson at number 5. BYU, my boys, at number 6, and then
BYU can't be ranked above Cincinnati, but go on.
I just think it's more impressive. I think that team's more complete and more like more money will come in if BYU has a chance to make it in than Cincinnati. I just think so. But you mentioned Cincinnati. Cincinnati's right after them. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you get through all yours?
No, I'm not. I was trying to see your reaction. At Cincinnati, and then I have Miami, Florida, Oregon, and Indiana to round out my top 10.
Yeah, I'm surprised by Indiana. Well, I want to tell you that BYU and Cincinnati can kiss their playoff dreams goodbye, because after Clemson loses to Notre Dame, they are still ranked number 4. And I think Cincinnati is 6. I have the AP poll. Why don't I just look at it?
I was just about to say, we just did the AP poll earlier.
Texas A&M at 5, Florida at 6. So I don't hate the Florida pick. I'm more looking ahead. They'll have to play Alabama in the SEC championships. I don't think they're going to be a 2-loss team. But, I mean, it sucks. But after seeing the AP poll being released and how the coaches are thinking as well, no group of 5 team is making the playoff this year.
No.
Unless literally the apocalypse happens. And it kind of sucks. Like, I like BYU too, and I like Cincinnati. But, I mean, they just showed me the voters just showed me that they're going to stick with Clemson.
No, and I understand that. I think the biggest thing for me is with Texas A&M's kind of like program just being put on hold yesterday. That's why for me, they're like a top 20 team, top 15 team. But with a team that has that big of a risk like Wisconsin does now, like, we might actually get to see them play this week. I just think going forward, they're just not. They're going to be a team that's going to have the same record in 2 weeks because they wouldn't play.
Yeah,
again, that's just my point of view. I know a lot of people don't agree with it. I still think if Texas A&M's if this is the only week they don't play a game and they play out the rest of their schedule, then they're back in the top 10 for me. But right now, as it stands, they're talking about like them not playing games for the next couple weeks, which is crazy. So.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I had sneaky Texas A&M maybe sneaking in because they're in the West with Alabama, so they could see Alabama beat Florida, so Florida will have 2 losses, and then Texas A&M would only have 1 loss still because they're in the West. I mean, it was a blowout versus Alabama, but yeah, it kind of stinks to realize that unless the apocalypse happens, we're not seeing any new teams. But I do think that BYU and Cincinnati
have one of the strongest cases to make it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they'll come out, and no matter what bowl they're in, probably one of the New Year's Six. I would imagine both of them are in New Year's Six. I think they would come out and win that bowl game. But and like I said, Luke Fickell's the man. He apparently signed an extension through 2026. He's going to be at USC, or maybe he'll take over for Alabama and Nick Saban. Maybe he's done. Or another job that's probably going to open up. I just thought about Auburn.
Ooh, yeah, that was.
Except I don't know how they would accept a Northerner, considering, But so we'll go on to our Heismanology. And everybody watching, feel free to comment and leave comments, and don't forget to vote for the game of the week. Like I said, we added Ohio State at Maryland. I don't know why, but we did. But for the
You don't,
Heismanology,
wait, whoa, you said why? Why would we add Ohio State versus Maryland?
yeah, Maryland's terrible.
Folks, you heard it here first. Justin calling. Did you not watch last week's game for Maryland?
Who'd they play? No.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a great game. I mean, they played Penn State.
Did they win?
Yeah, like pretty handedly.
Well,
And Tua's younger brother really showed that he's legit this year.
I'll tell you what, now that I've thought of it, Penn State might open up for Luke Fickell. I mean, Maryland, Maryland's not. I mean, Maryland and Rutgers are in the Big Ten in basketball, not in football. I mean, they are, but I don't consider them teams. So hopping into Heismanology, I think Justin Fields has kind of overtaken the front runner. I mean, it's just so fluid how he looks, and he honestly, like, I watch him at quarterback, and like, you see some quarterbacks that are really good, but they have like jerky motions. He just gets the snap and just like throws it up to one of his 75 receivers. But yeah, I think Justin Fields will take it over, and unless he gets hurt or or he has a terrible game in Indiana, Maryland, or Michigan, I think he'll win it out. I do have Trevor Lawrence at second, and then Mac Jones at third, Zach Wilson at 4, and Najee Harris at 5. I think they'll invite 4 this year, and I think they will let. I think it'll be Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson.
I hate to say it, but I'm gonna put my bias aside. I literally have the same 5 as you. I mean, I want to put Zach Wilson over Mac Jones, but I mean the Mac Jones.
I agree.
Stats, Mac Jones stats this year are just. I hate to say it, but they're pretty good. He's like the most accurate quarterback in college football, even though Alabama looks like they're not going to play again this week. So you have that. But again, I think Zach Wilson has done a great job. This kid has really grown. I mean, you look at his stats from last year and into this year, it's night and day. This kid's grown a lot and really developed as a quarterback, which I think, props to the QB whisperer down in BYU. So, but if sorry, go ahead. No, I was just gonna. No, you go ahead.
I know he's a junior, and I don't want to offend anyone when I'm saying this. He goes to BYU, which is a Mormon school. I believe they are like, once they graduate college or leave college, they have to go on like a 2-year trip of like traveling the whole. I'm saying it wrong, but I believe they do. Like a Mormon trip, and like if he would, I don't think he could go pro right after this year. I don't think he should either. But
I don't think he should. But
no, I mean, someone would pick him up in second or third round. I mean, shoot, he's better than Jalen Hurts was last year. So,
to be honest, I think he's potentially better than Trey Lance. I mean, he's shown he can. I mean, we've only seen one game from Trey Lance, and it's really hard to compare the two. But, I'll say that's Trey Lance's best game. That's the stats. He has the best game. I mean, I'll take Zach Wilson's stats in one game versus that one.
No, I agree.
It's just like it's hard to compare the two, but I don't know if you're right or not with the whole 2-year trip thing. But we'll see when draft time starts and the season ends if he decides to go, if he decides not to go. To be honest, if the way he's looking right now, I would say go. I mean, you think about it I know you'll be a top 3 quarterback taken in the draft in my eyes.
I would agree in my eyes.
I mean, you think about it. The first 2 quarterbacks on the board are going to be Trevor Lawrence and then Justin Fields. And number 3 is up in the air right now. It could be Zach Wilson or Trey Lance. It depends on.
Zach Wilson kind of reminds me of Baker Mayfield. Shorter guy, but can just as a gunslinger.
He doesn't have the attitude, though.
Because he can't.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for you to say that, but.
All right, so I assume you have your helmet stickers ready?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to go one, then you go one, and we'll go on like that. My first helmet sticker goes to Alex Barbier, the kicker for Liberty. He came on with 8 seconds left in the game to kick a game-winning 59-yard field goal. It was blocked and returned for a Virginia Tech touchdown, so they should have won. But they iced the kicker, and then so they had 8 seconds left, and they took 5 seconds, threw an out down the field, and he ended up kicking a 51-yarder for the win. I'll just say that now. My room for improvement is also icing the kicker. It's kind of like the basketball question, the football question, the basketball question. Do you foul up 3 or what? But yeah, no, I mean that's big of that kid. I mean because kickers are like hotheads. Who knows what they do,
Yeah.
but
Hey, remember UCF's kicker a couple weeks ago? Missed the field goal to send him into overtime and just couldn't be calmed down after the game. Had like a temper tantrum on the sideline.
I did not see that.
That video went viral. Like his teammates are like, "Dude, it's okay. Like we'll get through this." He's like, "Get the off me!" and just throwing crap everywhere. And it was just really.
I like that from my kicker. He thinks he's tough.
No, I do too. But it was just funny to watch. It looked like a 4-year-old throwing a temper tantrum because mommy said he couldn't have McDonald's for dinner. My one of my first helmet sticker goes to LaDarren Brown from Oklahoma State. He went for 15 carries and 110 yards, and his vision while carrying the ball was really good. We haven't talked about him enough. We haven't talked about him enough due to Chuba Hubbard usually getting the hype around Oklahoma State, but he more than tripled Chuba Hubbard's yards in that game and really carried that run game for them. So I think it's going to be going forward for Oklahoma a really good two-headed monster because people are going to be like, whoa, now we got to worry about LaDarren Brown because Chuba Hubbard isn't going. So,
yeah. Well, you're talking about a Big 12 running back, but you're talking about the wrong Big 12 running back. Breece Hall, the running back for Iowa State, and Matt Campbell carried the ball 31 times for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's the most underrated player in the country. He's played really well all year. So I give it to Breece Hall, and then I'll just give you my last one real quick. Justin Fields. Okay. Just looks so easy for him.
Mm-hmm. My last two is Kyron Williams. I mean, had a phenomenal game, 23 rushes, 140 yards for 3 touchdowns. And it just dominated that Tiger defense. My last one is Tualia Tagovailoa from Maryland, the quarterback, 18 to 26, 282 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really showed that he can, he's still young, has room to improve, but he could be something special.
Yeah, I mean, runs in the family, hopefully. I did have 2 room for improvements. I said one about icing the kicker, and I don't really want to get into it right now, but Notre Dame security, with where the virus is and COVID is right now, you cannot be allowing students to storm the field.
They weren't doing anything. There was a video of the security was just standing there just like.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age with everything going on, you can't allow that. I mean, I know Notre Dame mandated testing after that, but I mean, I just don't understand how that can happen. But and then I'll start with my playoff fixture, and then you'll do yours. I got 1 Alabama, 2 Notre Dame, 3 Ohio State, 4 Texas A&M, and the first 2 out are Cincinnati and Clemson.
We kind of touched upon this earlier. Mine are Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and right now, as it sits, Florida. I just think Clemson should have won that game, and it kind of sets them back to a 5 team. And Texas A&M, I don't have in it because we don't know what their program is going to be like for the future.
I just saw your thing. But we're going to do 2 trivia questions today, and we're going to try and get done in under an hour, which would be a record for us. Justin's got to go to sleep. He's like an old man.
No worries.
All right.
Why don't you do your 2 questions, and I'll do my 2 questions.
Oh, yeah, I wrote them on here. Hold on. Yeah, I'll do my 2 questions first, and you can do yours. Where are they? Okay, in what year did college football juniors become eligible to be drafted in the NFL?
Say that again. You sped through it. What year did they become could start?
In what year did college football juniors become eligible to be drafted into the NFL?
Oh, this was recently too. Oh, I'll say 2001.
A little bit off.
Just
But
type it in chat.
you type one in if you can type one in too if you want.
Yeah.
I'll go to my second one. I don't know. When were you born? 99?
Yeah.
All right, see, you might not remember this, so it's kind of unfair, but whatever. In 2007, it was also known as the year of the upset. What was the biggest upset that happened on opening weekend in 2007?
2007 opening weekend. I don't know. I really don't. I was maybe 7 at the time. Didn't watch college football.
God. Okay. Well.
I remember I'm from Boston. We don't have like really a good college football team.
Okay. Yeah, I'll type them both to you. But yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, my I put my second guess in there for your first one. Who was the first sophomore to win the Doak Award? Doak Walker Award.
Doak Walker goes to the running back.
Yeah,
Um,
first sophomore.
Adrian Peterson.
Nope. My second question is, what player won a national championship and a Heisman for Florida State?
Oh God. Was it in the 90s? I think so.
Yeah, it was around there.
It's not Andre Ward. He went to Houston.
You're gonna kick yourself once you see the answer, unless you get it.
Did you just type it in? Yeah, I got it.
No,
Okay.
no, that was the first one, but the second one I haven't typed in yet.
What was the first? Oh, okay. It's I don't know. It's one of the quarterbacks. I don't know.
You're gonna
Is
kick
the work
yourself.
done?
I already typed it.
Oh, I said Andre Ward.
Yeah,
I said Andre Ward.
yeah, you were
Oh my
close.
God.
It was one of the words. But
You don't remember that in 2007?
No.
Dude, that 2007, because we had a little bit of time to just talk, but I mean, 2007 was the craziest college football year of ever. There was like the number one and the number two teams lost like a record number of times. Rutgers at one point was ranked number one. But yeah, Appalachian State over Michigan, the block kick. You don't remember that either?
The only block click I remember is the Penn, or was it Penn State versus Michigan State or Michigan versus Michigan State?
Oh,
the one where the guy is like, and then Jeremy Lane breaks his leg in the end zone, ends his career. But
I didn't think he broke his leg. He broke like his pelvis or something.
Okay, maybe it wasn't his leg, but his career was done.
Yeah, I know.
After that.
Well, hey, if that's me, I'm out there. I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
He was literally like, if you watch the video back, he's literally just he's grabbing like his quad area, and everyone's just jumping on top of him.
Yeah, I feel like it was his hip bone or his pelvis, like an old person's thing, but he can never play again. But yeah, that's gonna do it for our show. We're coming in
under an hour. Everyone give a round of applause.
I don't know yet what time we will be going on Friday, and we are sorry in advance. The games this week, the slate is terrible. So you can choose between Oregon
Wisconsin,
at Washington,
Michigan.
Oregon at Washington State, Wisconsin at Michigan, SMU at Tulsa, or Ohio State at Maryland. Just either comment on here or tweet at me or Jake. I had something else. Oh yeah, Maction is back in action tonight.
Yeah, we have the Miami, Ohio game going on right now.
Yeah. What did I say? I made 3 picks for the Maction, just because I'm sick. And yeah, I don't know where it is, but I believe I had Bowling Green hosts Kent State. Kent State's favored by 20.5. Kent State wins but covers, but Bowling Green covers. Akron plays at Ohio, and Ohio's favored by 30. I'm just staying away from that one. And then probably the biggest game of the year, Miami, who won the conference last year, travels to Buffalo this weekend or tonight, and they're the favorite this year. But I like Buffalo -8 this week. So yeah, like I said, we'll get into everything on Friday. I'll let you know what time. Check our social medias. But that's it. Jake, you got anything else?
No, just everyone stay safe out there. The virus is starting to ramp up in some areas, so just be safe, mindful of those around you, and just make smart
Four,
decisions, everyone.
3, 2, 1.